If you've ever thought about building a SaaS application on Bubble, this video is going to leave you taking concrete steps towards launching that app. In fact, we're about to go through a real app example that someone probably very similar to you recently launched. But the reality is, SaaS applications involve a ton of moving parts. Everything from automating flows of data between multiple services, managing custom user roles, and many things in between. If you don't have a rock-solid plan to work through your SaaS development, you can easily spend the next 1 to 2 years guessing your way through that development. So use this video to guide yourself towards launching a successful SaaS business way faster and more correctly too. Like I said, we're going to dive straight into going through an example SaaS application that was built on Bubble by one of our own Built to Scale clients. And the MVP version of this application was recently released. All right, so this application was built for athletic trainers. Typically, they're working within an organization, such as a school, so that they can keep track of all the information they need to support their athletes whenever an injury occurs, follow-ups, treatment plans, things like that. So the data structure of an app like this is critical, especially because it's a SaaS type of app, right? You have multiple organizations. Each of those may have multiple teams. You may have trainers assigned to those teams. So there's a lot of separation of information, and the architecture behind the scenes is really important. So this was one of the biggest things that our client here had to keep in mind when building this out, so that the right people got access to the right areas. And of course, the features within this application, there's a lot of common ones that you'll find in SaaS apps, such as graphs and charts to visualize information, Kanban boards so that you can move things from one status to another, right? Like the athlete's recovery, how they're doing. Keep in mind, this is the first version app built by a non-coder within an incredibly compressed time frame. And while this client gets all the credit for bringing this app to life, now is a great time to talk about what's happening under the hood on the Bubble side of things. We do have actually 2 other real app examples that we're going to dive into in just a bit. But for now, let's dig into using Bubble for SaaS. We love using Bubble.io for SaaS applications because number one, it's no code. You don't have to learn any traditional coding languages or hire a team to build a real scalable SaaS app. So this is going to significantly cut down your development time, especially when compared to traditional approaches. The second reason is that it's full stack. Everything that you need to customize, such as the front end designs, the back end data architecture, and all of the logic in between, it's all under one roof. So you don't need to worry about cobbling together different systems so that they can communicate with each other. The communication is much more seamless here. So the time it takes to put together and launch a true scalable SaaS application is a fraction of what it would be with traditional methods. Let's dive into some key capabilities that are most relevant for SaaS apps. The first is the ability to create multi-tenant data structures. This is really important for SaaS applications because you've got to have data separation between your organizations. So it's up to you to create the right tables, the definitions within those tables, the fields, the option sets, the relationships between that data, so that the right people can get access to the right things. And they're also restricted from the things that they're not supposed to have access to. From these custom definitions, you have the ability to create hierarchies. So you can have an organization, and then maybe teams or groups that fall under that organization, users that are assigned to those teams. This is completely up to your own definitions. Bubble's not going to assume what you're building. It's not going to give you a template or box you in any way. But this is a great thing. This allows you to create a fully robust custom experience for your specific needs. With these custom data structures, you can also create custom privacy rules, which is very important for security. And this is also alongside the built-in security features that Bubble has out of the box, no matter what app you're building. Because you have custom data structures, it's up to you to define different access rights that people have for that data. So maybe I can view something versus edit something, right? Just depends on who I am as a user, what my relationship is to other data. And finally, when it comes to custom data structures, you also have the ability to have users upload their data into your custom system so that it's a seamless experience for them. We see this all the time with SaaS applications. If they're coming, for example, from another system, they may want to import their existing CRM, their existing transactions, whatever it might be, tasks, right, for project management. And you can create the logic to pull in that data, normalize it if you need, and have it fit right within your custom definitions in this Bubble database. The next capability that's really helpful for SaaS apps is single sign-on, or SSO. There's a couple different options here, actually. The first is one of the most popular. You can add third-party login providers as a part of your login system for users to get access to their account. You've probably seen this all over the web. When you sign up for something, it will ask you if you want to do so through your Google account, your LinkedIn account. You have the capability to offer that to your users as well. You can do this with plugins. There are many of them out there that are connected to the most popular services, allows you to do things out of the box a bit more easily. You can also connect to an API to accomplish this in a custom way if you need. And so that is a really handy feature if you know that your users will typically have accounts with those systems. It can save them a couple clicks. That's one less password for them to remember. The second method is if you're on a Bubble Enterprise plan. Bubble has some built-in connections to popular identity providers for enterprise systems, things like Cloudflare, Salesforce, Auth0, Azure. There's a whole list of them there. So you can take advantage of that as well. And then you also have the capability to do the reverse, where your Bubble application is actually the system that is being used to authenticate access to outside systems. So you can go either way with it. The fact that you have access to these types of features is going to allow you to make things much more convenient for your users, really scale in a real way in a SaaS environment for the organizations as well. One of my favorite capabilities of the Bubble platform is being able to work with APIs. APIs really open up a lot of doors. You can communicate with the outside world, you can extend functions and design in your app, and Bubble has a few different tools to help you do this very easily. This is great for SaaS applications as well. So the first is the plugin marketplace. The marketplace on Bubble is vast. There are many different plugins that can give you extra workflow functionalities, design elements that you can add to your front-end interface. Some are free, some are paid. It just depends on what you're looking for. Some are published by Bubble. A lot of them are published by the community. There are a handful of them that we even consider staples with every single Bubble application. And because they're plugins, a lot of them are just plug in and go. So you can just start working with them out of the box without too much configuration. The next tool is the API connector. So let's say that you can't find what you need in the plugin marketplace. The API connector is typically where you're going to go next to create a custom connection to an API, whether it's to pull in data from an outside source or to send data out elsewhere. This is a fantastic tool. I consider it one of my staples for communicating with APIs. And again, for SaaS apps, it's great because usually users of a SaaS application are also working with other tools. So you want to have your Bubble application offer that ability to work alongside your users' other systems, and being able to communicate seamlessly with them is going to be a big win for them. The next tool is the Bubble App Connector. So let's say that you're building multiple Bubble apps and you want to create a suite of tools as separate applications. The Bubble App Connector allows you to have each of those apps communicate with each other. So one app, for example, can pull from the database of another, or one app can trigger a workflow inside of another. That can really open up a lot of possibilities, especially for scale. If you have a suite of tools that you want to create for an industry or for a specific market, this can really give you a lot of leverage to do so in an efficient way. And finally, we have your backend workflows. This is a part of your workflow API. Every Bubble application actually allows you to expose a workflow API and a data API so that external systems can communicate with you via those API connections. It's similar to the Bubble App Connector, but this is any type of system that has the ability to make an API call. They can communicate with you. The backend workflows is something that you'll use for both external and internal purposes. You can set up workflows that can run on a schedule. They can happen on a recurring basis. They can happen behind the scenes, right? The user doesn't necessarily need to be present for something to happen. This is a very powerful area that is great for bulk updates to databases with lots of changes that need to be made to a lot of records, for example, or if you just need to have something on a recurring basis. You can wait to receive information incoming in real time from external systems. Hugely powerful section. It's one of my favorites and is especially true for SaaS applications. This is, again, typically an environment where you're often going to have relationships with other systems that need to communicate with your app. So the APIs are the way to do it. Okay, before we head any further, I want to take you through another SaaS app example that one of our other Built to Scale clients launched. And if you're interested in learning more about how these entrepreneurs are working with us, you can head over to coachingnocodeapps.com/built-to-scale, whether you're building a SaaS app or something entirely different. But for now, let's check out this application, and we're going to have one more app example after that too. This application was created for curtain and blind retailers, and this is an industry where there's a lot of customization. It's very data-driven, a lot of different data points. Window treatments can be customized in all sorts of directions. The type of fabric, the dimensions, the various accessories, a lot of things can be combined in many different ways. And he built this in a SaaS structure to sell to these retailers. So they're using it within their own businesses, right? They're not seeing information from other businesses. And this is essentially one giant project management space. He's created, a consolidated command center for operations, helping them move away from traditional pen and paper. So he's got custom features that are unique to the industry, such as calculators that he built from scratch to help calculate the dimensions of the various accessories and the fabrics. A quick way to set up invoices, going from an estimate over to an order and then generating an invoice from that. He has a way for them to manage their library of materials and products, and just a general job management system as well. With a retailer that might be very busy, they may have many jobs going at the same time. So he's got a whole area, project management space for them to monitor all of that. And having this all under one roof is huge value for his users. This is an application that is live, was built on Bubble, and is doing fantastic. The next capability is one that's almost expected for SaaS systems, and that is to white label the user's front end experience. And this can be done to different degrees. So to start, at a basic level, you can capture information that is unique to the organization and then display it back to them and really give them a more seamless experience. For example, logos, colors, everything that is a part of their branding, custom names for user roles, right? Organizations are going to call things differently. And so being able to capture this information and dynamically present that back to them makes things feel more native for their own organization. It's as if you built the tool specifically for them. So it's up to you to design the logic and the data structures to support all of that, but that's absolutely possible here. Now, taking things one step further, Bubble also supports the ability to create sub-applications. And this really creates a more formal approach for the multi-tenant environment. The way that it works is you set up one primary application, you do all of your logic, all of your data building and your designs in this one application, and then you'll create clones. Anytime you have a new tenant that wants to join the entire system, you're going to create a sub-app from that primary. A lot of great benefits from this. It really creates a true white labeling experience because you can customize their domain for each individual sub app. The databases are going to be independent now because they are their own app. It's a much more formal approach to creating a white labeled experience, and it's really popular with SaaS systems. Imagine if you're creating something for a franchise operation where each individual location needs to be in its own environment. It helps you keep data separated per environment, but still give everyone the same experience, gives everyone the same features that you've built from that primary design. And of course, you can customize things so maybe some sub apps get access to certain things, whereas others don't. It's just all in the logic that you've created. The next key capability is monetizing your app, and there's many different ways that you can accomplish this as well so that you can bring in revenue. The main thing that you want to start with is integrating with a payment processor. This is what's going to actually allow you to collect transactions, whether it's a one-time licensing fee or a subscription-based system. Depends on the industry that you're in and how you want to build that revenue model for your own business. Being able to connect to a payment processor is key. Now, we love to work with Stripe. We recommend it with all of our clients, but there are many other ones out there. As long as it offers an API, you should be able to connect to it. Bubble's API connector is the best tool for that. You may also find that there's a plugin built for the payment gateway that you want to use in the plugin marketplace. Now, a lot of SaaS applications will use a subscription system for their revenue model. And you can do subscriptions many ways. You can do just a traditional, multiple plan option. You can do a per seat type of system where you're charging based on how many users are added to the organization, right? 10 members, 100 members, 1,000 members, and that can dictate the plan that they're on. You can do things by usage. So if you want to track based on how many files they've uploaded or how many records they've created in the database, the size of the files that they've uploaded, that's all under your control. It's all up to you to create that logic alongside the integration with the payment gateway. Of course, enforcing those different tiers may come through restricting access to different features. So if you're on tier 1, maybe you get basic access to some modules that you've built out in your app, whereas tier 2 gives you more access to things, right? It's up to you. And then if you are working within a marketplace type of system, if that's what your app is, you can of course take fees out of the transactions that your users are paying each other. That's another approach to bringing in revenue. If you don't want to put a subscription on your users, that can be another way of going about it. This next capability is one that I get asked about all the time when someone is unsure about whether it's possible in Bubble. And really, all this is just another feature that you're building in your app. But it's important and valuable for SaaS systems, and that is an admin portal. So this is an area where you create kind of this global view of activity, of data for yourself so that you can see how your organizations are doing. One of the first things that you can do in this portal is just to be able to manage all of the subscriptions and just accounts that have been created, see what plan they're on, see what status their plan is, if it's active, canceled, trialing, and be able to control things from there in one place if you need. The next thing you can do is to run admin-based changes. So if you need to manually add an account to your SaaS system, if you need to blacklist somebody or change someone's email or in some way support your users, this is an area that you can create to make it easy for yourself to do that. At the end of the day, you have access to all of the information, all of the data that's being saved to the database by your users because you're designing it in your app. So along those lines, you can also build custom reports for yourself. So if your users are generating content, being able to search through all that content with custom filters and gather important insights so that you can improve the application in further iterations. And those reports can also be visualized with charts and graphs to help you grab those insights in a very easy way. Let's say that you have a team around you that's supporting this application. Having access to a portal like this can allow everybody to stay on the same page about the health of the application. Okay, I promise you one more app example built by a non-coder in our Built to Scale program. And if you're interested in learning more about whether you and your app idea are a good fit for that program too, whether it's a SaaS app or something else entirely different, head over to coachingnocodeapps.com/built to scale. This application is a true SaaS tool for organizations. It's actually a recruiting tool. It'll guide users through the process of building out a hiring campaign. And they can customize every corner of this thing. So they can put together all the requirements around the position. They can define their various interview stages, associate incentives with those stages, of course, track the candidates. She's actually built out both sides, the hiring company side and also the candidate side. So all of the information flows freely between the two sides. It's all under one roof. And this is a very data-driven application. So there's lots of entry that needs to come from the users. And what she's doing is organizing it in a way where by the end of this flow, the users come out of it with a well-crafted campaign that they can then post into their website or a job board. And everything is just managed for them. It helps normalize, standardize the way that they build their campaigns so that they don't miss anything. And this is just a great example of a data-driven application with a lot of customization options that the users can take advantage of that is also collaborative. Now, let's talk security. When you're building a SaaS application, you're generally building for organizations, companies, businesses, right? And so they typically have a higher standard and when it comes to the security around the tools that they use, because they need to make sure that their data, their customers' data is protected. And Bubble's going to take care of you there. There's a lot of built-in security that's going on behind the scenes that you don't have to worry about. For example, Bubble is SOC 2 compliant, they're GDPR compliant. You can send email confirmations when your user signs up. Your user's passwords are encrypted. You don't ever have access to your user's passwords. You can set up two-factor authentication. You can set up single sign-on. I encourage you to take a look at Bubble's own security page as it details all of the various capabilities that are protecting your application so you don't have to worry about what happens when you start to scale that SaaS app. Now, what about your own management of a SaaS application behind the scenes? You know, as you start to grow this application, you're typically going to involve a team of people. At least that's what we have seen. It may not be in the early versions, it may come later on, but you want to be prepared to work with other people to help maintain your app if it starts to grow. So what is Bubble going to do to help you collaborate with other developers alongside you? Well, first, you have the ability to invite people into your editor, and you can restrict the type of access they have as well. This is great if you're working with someone who's going to be dedicated on troubleshooting things or on implementing a new feature, on integrating things with your app, while you work on the rest, or maybe it's reversed, those roles are switched around. You have the ability to invite collaborators to your application. The next thing that you can do is work in multiple branches. So this is available on the higher tiered paid plans of Bubble, but you have the ability to create multiple development environments to work on features, in an isolated way. This is especially helpful if you're working in a team. That way, someone working in one area isn't going to interrupt somebody else working in another area. There's a lot of different things you can do to take advantage of multiple branches. It's very common for even in traditional coding environments to be able to separate your work in that way. And then finally, you also have a lot of helpful version control, restoration of your construction of your app, of your database. If you ever need to revert back to a previous version, this is absolutely available to you. I mean, these things are standard when it comes to building applications. So of course, Bubble is going to offer them as well. Now, when it comes to SaaS applications, these are typically ones that will grow very quickly because usually the users of a SaaS app are companies, organizations that can likely bring in a lot of users all at once or a lot of data very quickly to work with on a regular basis. So I just want to call out that for the long term, Bubble does have an enterprise plan that you can take advantage of as well. On the enterprise plan, you can place your app on an isolated server in the region of your own choice. You get a dedicated account manager. You have much more granular controls over a lot of the technical settings behind the scenes, version control, data restoration, and a lot more. So know that this is available here for you to grow with long term. All right, listen, SaaS-based businesses are some of the most sought after because the scalability is high, which means the revenue potential is high as well. So use this as your guide. And if you want to see more app examples, head over to coachingnocodeapps.com/no-code app showcase. All right, I hope this was helpful, and we'll see you in the next one.